You have PCOS, you're trying to conceive, but there are so many supplements on the market. Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Alex, a reproductive health nutritionist and the founder of the PCOS Collective. Supplements are products designed to augment your intake of vitamins and minerals. They can come in various forms, such as tablets, capsules, gummies, liquids, and powder form. Supplements are not there to replace a balanced diet, but instead to support it, especially when dietary intake is not sufficient to reach your nutrient goals. The evidence for supplementing with various different vitamins and minerals for conceiving with PCOS is wildly varied. So let's dive into each one. First up, folic acid. Folic acid, the synthetic version of vitamin B9, known as folate, is a water-soluble vitamin, vital for DNA formation, involved in protein metabolism, and during periods of rapid growth. It is an essential nutrient for a baby's development. Therefore, it is crucial to supplement during preconception and the early stages of pregnancy. Folate is commonly known to help prevent neural tube defects by enabling an embryo's brain, skull, and spinal cord to form properly. If you are planning to conceive, the NHS and the CDC both recommend taking 400 micrograms of folic acid daily to help build up stores. Take your dose daily 3 months prior to getting pregnant and for the first 12 weeks of pregnancy. So everyone trying to conceive needs to take folic acid. But what about its link with PCOS? Interestingly, one study of 54 people living with PCOS found that up to 70% of participants were at the risk of insufficient intake of folic acid. Furthermore, another study found that people living with PCOS who suffered from infertility had improved symptoms and improved fertility outcomes when supplementing with folic acid and myo-inositol. 70% of over 3,500 participants had restored ovulation, better fertilization rates, as well as improved embryo quality. Next up, inositol. Inositol is a sugar alcohol belonging to B-complex vitamins. It has 9 stereoisomers with 2 of particular interest to people with PCOS, myo and D-chiroinositol. Inositol-derived metabolites have been seen to be involved in insulin sensitivity, as well as other functions within the body. Randomized control studies have found that inositol may improve various symptoms of PCOS, including reducing reproductive abnormalities, decreasing androgen levels, and improving insulin resistance. As mentioned, there are 2 isomers of inositol which are of particular interest to us. First of all, myo-inositol, which is involved in the function of FSH and ovulation. It's been seen in some studies to improve egg quality and improve the chances of conception. Secondly, D-chiroinositol, which is involved in the synthesis of some androgen. It has been found to regulate testosterone levels and reduce the risk of metabolic disease. There has been growing evidence that supplementing with inositol could improve outcomes in PCOS, particularly in balancing sex hormone levels and improving insulin levels, which in turn could have a positive effect on ovulation and fertility. A systematic review of 12 randomized control trials found that oral administration of myo-inositol alone or in combination with D-chiroinositol is capable of restoring spontaneous ovulation and improving fertility outcomes in people living with PCOS. Now it's time for the sunshine vitamin, vitamin D. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble hormone synthesized when sunlight hits our skin. While some foods contain a small amount of vitamin D, it isn't enough, and unfortunately, winter sun does not contain enough of the UVB component to be able to synthesize enough vitamin D during those winter months. That means supplementation is often essential for people living in the Northern Hemisphere. Interestingly, research has found that vitamin D deficiency is often more common in people living with PCOS than those without PCOS. Low levels of vitamin D could impact PCOS symptoms, particularly menstrual cycle irregularities and infertility. Emerging research has begun to look at the effect of vitamin D supplementation in people living with PCOS, particularly on fertility. One randomized control trial looked at surrogate fertility markers in 180 people with PCOS and 150 people without PCOS. After 24 weeks, they found that daily vitamin D supplementation improved fertility outcomes in those people living with PCOS, but had no effect on those living without PCOS. We need more evidence to understand the effect of vitamin D supplementation on PCOS symptoms and its effect on fertility. If you live in the Northern Hemisphere during the winter months, you should be supplementing daily anyway. Take a look at the NHS or the CDC website for particular recommendations for you. Next up, omega-3. Fish oil contains omega-3 fatty acids, also known as polyunsaturated fats. There are 3 types, and these are essential, which means we have to get them through the diet. They are an integral part of cell membranes throughout the body. They are the starting point for making hormones that control blood clotting, contraction and relaxation of artery walls, and inflammation. There is evidence to suggest that people with PCOS live with chronic inflammation. So could omega-3 fatty acids in fish oil or algae oil help with that? A 2018 study on 60 people living with PCOS for 12 weeks found that daily supplementation of omega-3 fatty acids had beneficial effects on mental health parameters, insulin resistance, total testosterone levels, hirsutism, and inflammatory markers. Although this is a small study, there is scope for further research, and it's pretty interesting. In another study, 78 people with PCOS were randomized to either receive a placebo or omega-3 for 8 weeks. Omega-3 was seen to regulate the menstrual cycle, which could help with ovulation and therefore fertility outcomes. But of course, this is a small, short-term study, and we need more research to really understand the effects of omega-3 on fertility, in particular in patients with PCOS. So those were the main supplements that are often recommended for PCOS and fertility. What about those other supplements that you may have heard now and again popping up? Let's have a conversation about them. N-acetylcysteine, known as NAC, is thought to increase cellular levels of antioxidants. It has the potential to improve insulin receptor activity and insulin secretion in response to glucose. A systematic review and meta-analysis found that people taking NAC had a higher chance of ovulation and getting pregnant compared to those not taking NAC. However, when compared to metformin, NAC did not perform as well in terms of ovulation and fertility outcomes. Although interesting results, the analysis found that we need more well-designed trials to really understand the impact of NAC on PCOS. How about coenzyme Q10? Coenzyme Q10 is a fat-soluble antioxidant. As an antioxidant, CoQ10 actually supports cellular energy production. There are extremely limited studies on the impact of CoQ10 on people living with PCOS. There are studies showing the impact of taking CoQ10 alongside medications like Clomid and their effect on fertility outcomes. But more high-quality research really is required to understand the impact of CoQ10 supplementation on PCOS fertility outcomes. As with so many aspects of PCOS, we just need more research to really understand the effects of supplementation on PCOS fertility outcomes. When choosing a prenatal supplement, look for one that contains enough folic acid and also vitamin D. You may choose to add in other supplements that we've discussed today, things like inositol, omega-3, NAC, or CoQ10. It's all dependent on your nutritional status and conversations you have with your healthcare professionals, doctors, nutritionists, and dietitians. Our favorite prenatals are linked below. Thank you so much for watching.